Hey, happy April 16th, 16th day of National Poetry Month, and 41st day of the pandemic, and the 23rd-ish day of continuous learning through Zoom. One of the things that I've gotten very proficient at since we have made the switch. My students have too. Had some really good chats today about Hamilton and assonance and consonants and alliteration. So that's really fun. But today we're here to talk to one another about Paradise Lost, book 7. We're not reading as much as we had been reading, line 1 through 356, and in part because this book is shorter, but you know, also because that's how the numbers fell out. So, just kidding, 338, so even less. All right, I'm gonna stop with the preamble because nothing good is happening here today so far, preamble-wise. We are still at Adam and Eve's lunch table, I suppose, in the bower, and Raphael is still telling Adam stories, well, just about things. Yesterday, remember, we got the retelling of life with a 10-month-old dog. All right, officially not a full moon, and yet I have an animal who is acting like it could be. And I probably have a cat who's gonna come visit as well tonight, at any rate. Right, preamble wasn't really preambling. Let's see. Raphael is still with Adam, theoretically still enjoying lunch. Longest business lunch ever. And yeah, Adam has been told, Raphael has told Adam about the war in heaven, the rebellion, how we basically got from the precipitating events to where we began the poem. And like I said last night in the little written description of the installment, I hope you're noticing the parallels between Raphael and Milton. And then by extension, us as readers and Adam and Eve, our forebears, with lots of tragic implications, in part because obviously, like within a Christian framework, we are all helplessly fallen, and we inherited that from the story from the actions in the story that we're reading. From like just a readerly perspective, from basically the Romantics on, we as readers have fallen victim, like Adam and Eve did, to the wiles of this rhetorically persuasive and compelling figure of Satan. And the entire time, of course, Milton, Raphael, and all of Milton's mouthpieces are trying to at once persuade us to be persuaded and then also persuade us not to be persuaded at all. It's one of my favorite parts about Paradise Lost. It was the framing and the layers of meaning and the way that they work with, and they're completely in tension with one another, but also really, really work. Anyway, I continue to be fascinated. Okay, now that officially is more than enough preamble. So the dog has decided to curl up in her chair. So I'm going to cross my fingers and continue to lull her to sleep with Milton's lovely rhythms. Hold on. Book 7, The Argument. Raphael, at the request of Adam, relates how and wherefore this world was first created. That God, after the expelling of Satan and his angels out of heaven, declared his pleasure to create another world and other creatures to dwell therein, sends his Son with glory and attendance of angels to perform the work of creation in 6 days. The angels celebrate with hymns the performance thereof, and his reascension into heaven. Ooh, right, we have another invocation, which is also always fun. Descend from heaven, Urania, by that name if rightly thou art called, whose voice divine following, above the Olympian hill I soar, above the flight of Pegasean wing. The meaning, not the name I call, For thou, nor of the Muses 9, nor of the top of old Olympus dwellest, but heavenly born, before the hills appeared or fountain flowed, thou with eternal wisdom didst converse, wisdom thy sister, and with her didst play in presence of the Almighty Father, pleased with thy celestial song. Upled by thee into the heaven of heavens, I have presumed, an earthly guest, and drawn imperial air, thy tempering. With like safety guided down, return me to my native element, lest from this flying steed unreined, as once Bellerophon, though from a lower clime, dismounted, on the alien field, I fall erroneous there to wander and forlorn. Half yet remains unsung, but narrower bound within the visible diurnal sphere. Standing on earth, not wrapped above the pole, more safe I sing with mortal voice, unchanged to hoarse or mute, though fallen on evil days though fallen, and evil tongues. In darkness and with dangers compassed round and solitude. Especially poignant right now. Standing on earth, not wrapped above the pole, more safe I sing with mortal voice, unchanged to hoarse or mute, though fallen on evil days though fallen, and evil tongues. In darkness and with dangers compassed round and solitude. Yet not alone, while thou visitest my slumbers nightly, or when morn purples the east. Still govern thou my song, Urania, and fit audience find, though few, but drive far off the barbarous dissonance of Bacchus and his revelers. The race of that wild rout that tore the Thracian bard in Rhodope, where woods and rocks had ears to rapture, till the savage clamor drowned both harp and voice. Nor could the muse defend her son. So fail not thou, who thee implores. For thou art heavenly, she an empty dream. Say, goddess, what ensued when Raphael, the affable archangel, had forewarned Adam by dire example to beware apostasy? By what befell in heaven to those apostates, lest the like befall in paradise to Adam and his race, charged not to touch the interdicted tree if they transgress, and slight that sole command so easily obeyed amid the choice of all tastes else to please their appetite, though wandering. He with his consorted Eve the story heard attentive, and was filled with admiration, and deep mused to hear of things so high and strange, things to their thought so unimaginable as hate in heaven, and war so near the peace of God in bliss with such confusion. But the evil soon driven back redounded as a flood on those from whom it sprung, impossible to mix with blessedness. Whence Adam soon repealed the doubts that in his heart arose, and now led on, yet sinless, with desire to know what nearer might concern him. Whence Adam soon repealed the doubts that in his heart arose, and now led on, yet sinless, with desire to know what nearer might concern him, how this world of heaven and earth conspicuous first began, when and whereof created, for what cause, what within Eden or without was done before his memory, as one whose drought yet scarce allayed still eyes the current stream, whose liquid murmur heard new thirst excites, proceeded thus to ask his heavenly guest. Great things, and full of wonder in our ears, far differing from this world, thou hast revealed, divine interpreter. By favor sent down from the Empyrean to forewarn us timely of what might else have been our loss, unknown, which human knowledge could not reach, for which to the infinitely good we owe immortal thanks, and his admonishment receive with solemn purpose to observe immutably his sovereign will, the end of what we are. But since thou hast vouchsafed gently for our instruction to impart things above earthly thought, which yet concerned our knowing, as to highest wisdom seemed, deign to descend now lower, and relate what may no less perhaps avail us known. How first began this heaven, which we behold, distant so high, with moving fires adorned innumerable, and this which yields or fills all space, the ambient air wide interfused, embracing round this florid earth. What cause moved the Creator in his holy rest, through all eternity, so late to build in chaos, and the work begun, how soon absolved? If unforbid, thou mayest unfold what we, not to explore the secrets, ask of his eternal empire, but the more to magnify his works, the more we know. And the great light of day yet wants to run much of his race through those steep. Suspense in heaven, held by thy voice, thy potent voice he hears, and longer will delay to hear thee tell his generation, and the rising birth of nature from the unapparent deep. Or if the star of evening and the moon haste to thy audience, night with her will bring silence, and sleep, listening to thee, will watch, or we can bid his absence till thy song end, and dismiss thee ere the morning shine. Thus Adam, his illustrious guest, besought. And thus the godlike angel answered mild. This also thy request with caution asked, obtain. Though to recount almighty works, what words or tongue of seraph can suffice, or heart of man suffice to comprehend? Yet what thou canst attain, which best may serve to glorify the Maker, and infer thee also happier, shall not be withheld thy hearing. Such commission from above I have received to answer thy desire of knowledge within bounds. Beyond, abstain to ask, nor let thine own inventions hope things not revealed, which the invisible King, only omniscient, hath suppressed in night, to none communicable in earth or heaven. Enough is left besides to search and know. But knowledge is as food, and needs no less her temperance over appetite, to know in measure what the mind may well contain, oppresses else with surfeit, and soon turns wisdom to folly, as nourishment to wind. Know then that after Lucifer from heaven, so call him, brighter once amidst the host of angels than that star the stars among, fell with flaming legions through the deep into his place, and the great sun returned victorious with his saints. The omnipotent eternal Father from his throne beheld their multitude, and to his Son thus spake. At least our envious foe hath failed, who thought all like himself rebellious, by whose aid this inaccessible high strength, the seat of deity supreme, us dispossessed, he trusted to have seized, and into fraud drew many, whom their place knows here no more. Yet far the greater part have kept, I see, their station. Heaven yet populous retains number sufficient to possess her realms, though wide, and this high temple to frequent with ministries due and solemn rites. But lest his heart exalt him in the harm already done, to have dispeopled heaven, my damage fondly deemed, I can repair that detriment, if such it be to lose self lost, and in a moment will create another world, out of one man a race of men innumerable, there to dwell, not here, till by degrees of merit raised, they open to themselves at length the way up hither, under long obedience tried, and earth be changed to heaven, and heaven to earth, one kingdom, joy, and union without end. Meanwhile inhabit lacks, ye powers of heaven, and thou, my word, begotten Son, by thee this I perform, speak thou, and be it done. My overshadowing spirit and might with thee I send along, ride forth and bid the deep within appointed bounds be heaven and earth. Boundless the deep, because I am who fill infinitude, nor vacuous the space. Though I, uncircumscribed myself, retire, and put not forth my goodness, which is free to act or not, necessity and chance approach not me, and what I will is fate. So spake the Almighty, and to what he spake his word, the filial Godhead gave effect. Immediate are the acts of God, more swift than time or motion, but to human ears cannot without process of speech be told, so told as earthly notion can receive. Great triumph and rejoicing was in heaven, when such was heard declared the Almighty's will. Glory they sung to the Most High, goodwill to future men, and in their dwellings peace. Glory to him whose just avenging ire had driven out the ungodly from his sight, and the habitations of the just. To him glory and praise, whose wisdom had ordained good out of evil to create, instead of spirits malign, a better race to bring into their vacant room, and thence diffuse his good to worlds and ages infinite. So sang the hierarchies. Meanwhile, the sun on his great expedition now appeared, girt with omnipotence, with radiance crowned of majesty divine, sapience and love immense. And all his Father in him shone. About his chariot numberless were poured cherub and seraph, potentates and thrones and virtues, winged spirits and chariots winged from the armory of God, where stand of old myriads between two brazen mountains lodged against a solemn day, harnessed at hand, celestial equipage. And now came forth spontaneous, for within them spirit lived, attendant on their Lord. Heaven opened wide her ever-dearing gates, harmonious sound on golden hinges moving, to let forth the King of glory in his powerful word and spirit, coming to create new worlds. On heavenly ground they stood, and from the shore they viewed the vast immeasurable abyss, outrageous as a sea, dark, wasteful, wild, up from the bottom turned by furious winds and surging waves as mountains to assault heaven's height, and with the center mix the pole. Silence, ye troubled waves, and thou deep, peace, said the omnific word, your discord end. Nor stayed but on the wings of cherubim uplifted, in paternal glory rode far into chaos and the world unborn. For chaos heard his voice. Him all his train followed in bright procession to behold creation and the wonders of his might. Then stayed the fervid wheels, and in his hand he took the golden compasses prepared in God's eternal store to circumscribe this universe and all created things. One foot he centered, and the other turned round through the vast profundity obscure, and said, thus far extend, thus far thy bounds, this be thy just circumference, O world. Thus God the heaven created, thus the earth, matter unformed and void. Darkness profound covered the abyss, but on the watery calm his brooding wings the Spirit of God outspread, and vital virtue infused, and vital warmth throughout the fluid mass, but downward purged the black Tartarus, cold, infernal dregs adverse to life. Then founded, then conglobed, like things to like, the rest to several place disparted, and between spun out the air, and earth self-balanced on her center hung. Let there be light, said God, and forthwith light ethereal, first of things, quintessence pure, sprung from the deep, and from her native seat to journey through the airy gloom began, sphered in radiant cloud, for yet the sun was not. She in a cloudy tabernacle sojourned the while. God saw the light was good, and light from darkness by the hemisphere divided. Light the day and darkness night he named. Thus was the first day, even in morn, nor passed uncelebrated, nor unsung by the celestial choirs, when orient light exhaling first from darkness they beheld. Birthday of heaven and earth. With joy and shout, the hollow universal orb they filled, and touched their golden harps, and hymning praised God and his works. Creator hymn they sung, both when first evening was, and when first morn. Again God said, let there be firmament amid the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. And God made the firmament, expansive liquid, pure, transparent, elemental air, diffused in circuit to the uttermost convex of this great round. Partition firm and sure, the waters underneath from those above dividing. As for earth, so he the world built on circumfluous waters calm, in wide crystalline ocean, and the loud misrule of chaos far removed, lest fierce extremes contiguous might distemper the whole frame. And heaven he named the firmament, so even and morning chorus sung the second day. The earth was formed, but in the womb as yet of waters, embryon immature involved, appeared not. Over all the face of earth main ocean flowed, not idle, but with warm, prolific humor softening all her globe, fermented the great mother to conceive. Satiate with genial moisture, when God said, be gathered now ye waters under heaven, into one place, and let dry land appear. Immediately the mountains huge appear emergent, and their broad, bare backs upheave into the clouds. Their tops ascend the sky. So high as heaved the tumid hills, so low down sunk a hollow bottom, broad and deep, capacious bed of waters. Thither they hasted with glad precipitance, uprolled as drops on dust conglobing from the dry. Heart rise in crystal wall, or ridge direct, for haste. Such flight the great command impressed on the swift floods, as armies at the call of trumpet, 4 of armies thou hast heard, troop to their standard. So the watery throng, wave rolling after wave, where way they found, if steep, with torrent rapture, if through plain, soft ebbing. Nor withstood them rock or hill, but they, or underground, or circuit wide with serpent error wandering, found their way, and on the washy ooze deep channels wore. Easy, ere God had bid the ground be dry, all but within those banks, where rivers now stream, and perpetual draw their humid train. The dry land, earth, and the great receptacle of congregated waters he called seas, and saw that it was good, and said, let the earth put forth the verdant grass, herb yielding seed, and fruit tree yielding fruit after her kind, whose seed is in herself upon the earth. He scarce had said, when the bare earth, till then desert and bare, unsightly, unadorned, brought forth the tender grass, whose verdure clad her universal face with pleasant green, then herbs of every leaf, that sudden flowered, opening their various colors, and made gay her bosom smelling sweets. And these scarce blown, forth flourished thick a clustering vine, forth crept the swelling gourd, up stood the corny reed embattled in her field. Add the humble shrub and bush with frizzled hair implicit. Last rose, as in day, danced the stately trees, and spread their branches high with copious fruit, or gemmed their blossoms. With high woods the hills were crowned, with tufts the valleys, and each mountainside with borders along the rivers. That earth now seemed like to heaven, a seat where gods might dwell or wander with delight, and love to haunt her sacred shades. Though God had yet not reigned upon the earth, and manned till the ground none was, but from the earth a dewy mist went up, and watered all the ground, and each plant of the field, where'er it was in the earth God made, and every herb before it grew on the green stem. God saw that it was good, so even and morn recorded the 3rd day. All right. I love the story of creation so much. Yeah. More soon. Until tomorrow.